How's everybody doing? Good to see you. Well, 5 practices in, the 2 helmets only, the 2 half pads, and the 1 full pad. So we're starting to get a better idea, of what we're dealing with and what we have and what we need to do different. I think progress, on a football team, it's a slow, methodical process, and I love the process. I really enjoy this time of year. Fall camp is one of my favorite times of the year as far as getting to know the chemistry of your team and seeing the growth that happened over the summer. We're still working out some of the different things on the offensive line, moving guys around and making sure that we have multiple guys that can play multiple positions. I think that's really important. We're blessed that both Alex Barr and Joe Tooney have played guard and tackle, and we have Tony Adams who's played center and guard, so we're able to kind of shuffle the deck a little bit here and there to try to figure out our best chemistry and best 5, and that's still going to be probably a 2-week deal until Mike figures it all out. We are excited about Will Richardson. Had a really good first week, way better than he was in the spring. He had a tremendous summer, and he's pushing hard with Tyler Jones, and it's allowed us to, shuffle it up every now and then. So excited where we're at there. And the receivers have been competing. The young receivers early on, I think, we're thinking a lot. And yesterday we saw Freddie Phillips and Freddie Simmons, and Naheem make some plays. And it was good to see they kind of drop their nerves and it's helped, I think, the older guys, Cherry and Ramos and Austin, to see those younger guys pushing them. Trial was a little bit fatigued, I thought, the first few days. I had to learn how to push through a fall college practice. Last year he was hurt the entire training camp. So, it's been good to see him push through and had his best practice back-to-back on practice 4 and 5. So that group has got some depth, and now we're just trying to figure out who's going to be the steady guy in there. And tailbacks and the tight ends have all been what we thought they would be. Quarterbacks the same. Defensively, we're ahead of where we were, I think, last year at this time. The secondary, not only are our starters back, and improved, but I think Jermaine Pratt and Sean Boone and Kalen McCain, Mike Stevens, Troy Vincent Jr., all those young guys that got playing time last year now are playing with a lot more better understanding of what we want from them. Just feel good about the depth that we've created in the secondary, the linebacking core. MJ is back from his injury and gave us 4 good days. We gave him a break on Saturday so he could have 48 hours just with all the stuff his knee went through last year. But he's doing well. Jared and Arias have looked good, and Dravius is probably playing as good as he has at the nickel spot for us. Key now for us at nickel is going to be who his backup is, and we have Freddie Phillips there, and he's a freshman, so whether or not he can be the guy, we'll have to see as we move forward. D-line rotation's been pretty good, and we do have some talented freshmen. Darius Bryant's been impressive, big nose guard. He played with our 2s yesterday. We gave Monty a day off to rest, and he did some good things when he got in there. Emmanuel Olinga's done some good things in pass rush. Tyrone Riley, same thing. 2 long guys that are talented. The first group, kind of what we thought they would be. Bradley Chubbs had a lot of energy, and him and Mike Rose, I think, feed off of each other at end, and having Farrow behind those guys, there's good competition. And D-tackle, we've had a good rotation, with Contavious and BJ, Monty, Justin Jones. So, a lot different. Yesterday we live rushed our field goal team for the first time, and I thought Kyle Bambard handled that well. He's done a nice job in camp, and A.J. Cole's done a nice job punting. We'll probably this week get into our kickoff team, full kickoffs a little bit more, where we can judge, where that's going to be as far as who can handle that role between Jackson and AJ or Kyle with our kickoffs. And we'll have next Saturday some live returns so we can kind of see what our new return guys can do as well. We kind of know what Cherry can do and see what Trowell and Naheem can do in that role. Trowell had a touchdown in our spring game on a punt return, or in one of our spring scrimmages on a punt return, and he was a great returner in high school. So excited about that. We stayed relatively healthy, knock on wood, in week 1. We had Aaron Wiltz had a slight sprain, and he'll be back quick with this. Deontay had a ankle sprain, and he'll be back soon. And Niles got dinged a little bit and be back soon too. So far so good on that. I think the biggest difference so far in camp has just been the number of probably athletic guys we have for our special teams spots. You always feel get nervous, I guess, about how many snaps a starter can have and be a good special teams player, and at what point do you have that, place where he's no longer as effective as he could be, and you'd love to be able to put your starters, your best players out there, but you also want to utilize the depth of your team. And right now there's a lot more guys competing for playing time on those units, and I hope that helps our team. Last year I thought our coverage units were very effective, and part of that was our senior punter and kicker. Part of that was our coverage units being effective, but our return units need to improve. I'm hoping that having more fresh people on those units can help us do that. I do feel like the leadership of our team, we've had good senior leadership. I do feel like it's more broad now. You can see freshmen, sophomores, juniors, within the team leading in their groups by position, and that's something we've been working hard to create. I'm excited about that. Today's Meet the Pack Day, as you guys know, so it's great to have our fans and families and parents of our players here, and all ages from all over the place. It's going to be a fun day, and I'm glad we have the weather we do to enjoy it with them. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions. I think they want you to use the mic there, bud.
I'm sorry. How's Darian Roseboro looking?
Darian's doing well. He's improved from the spring. He's still working on little things. He's playing on the same side as Mike, and we have a good rotation going, with him and Mike Rose on one side and with Chubb and Farrow on the other. We like what all 4 of those guys can do, and we're going to need all 4 of them for sure.
Not including the guys who enrolled early, the freshmen. Have there been any new guys who just enrolled this summer who you've looked at can tell can help you on September 5th, or was it too soon to tell through the first week?
What'd you just say?
Are there any new guys who you looked at this week and you can tell they'll be able to help you guys on September 5th, or is it too soon to be in 1 week?
Nobody that just walked in the door.
Dave, you've got a new place kicker, punter, and long snapper.
Right.
How much more time do you have to spend on special teams this camp as opposed to the first 2 when you've had guys established in those positions?
I don't know if we'll spend more time, but we'll spend more live time. In the past it's been more 3/4 speed, not full live rushing a punter or live rushing a kicker, because they'd done it in so many games you didn't want to put them in harm's way, but we spend a lot of time on special teams as it is, so it'll just be how we spend it. Like yesterday we had live field goal rush. We never did that for the last 2 years. We would just take 3 hard steps and let the guy kick the ball. So now we need our kicker to feel what it's like for guys to be diving where he's almost going to land, and so just putting them in probably a little bit more live game-like situations is the biggest difference.
And you said the kicker is doing well, he's adjusting well. How about the punt game? Where is that right now?
So far, so good. AJ's, you saw him punt in the spring. He's got a good leg and had a good summer. So
when you have 2 running backs like Matt and Shad who have a lot of touches in a lot of different ways, what do you say to like Johnny or Reggie in terms of, this is what your role will be, this is how we share the ball, or this is what you can expect?
Well, eventually we'll have those conversations. We're going to get through a couple scrimmages before we tell anybody they're redshirting. It's a process, and sometimes you have injuries and it speeds up the process. Sometimes you're better than the guys that are there when you get recruited in, and that speeds it up. And sometimes you need to develop, and I don't know where we're at with those guys yet. You know, I think Reggie's ahead of Johnny just because he came in a semester early. He just knows the offense better, and that's not Johnny's fault. That's just the way it is, you know. So we'll let this thing kind of soak for 2 more weeks and then see where we're at. But it's fun to watch those guys. You know, yesterday was their first day in full pads running the football, so it was fun to see them compete.
Hey, Coach.
How you doing?
Obviously, you talked a little bit about the defensive line. Lost a lot inside on the defensive line with the two tackles, obviously Teal and McGill. Talk about how important it is for a lot of guys to get those reps, because it's going to take more than just 2 guys to fill those kind of shoes that those 2 guys had.
Well, you know, I think on both sides of the ball, you build your offense and defense inside out. And so you want to be strong up the middle. And I feel great about where we're at. You know, I mean, it's just going to come down to game day to see who will rise. But as far as the depth and the talent right now, you can look at B.J. Hill, who played a lot of football last year. Contavious, who's in a new role, but he played a lot of football last year, and he's one of the strongest kids I've ever coached. And then you have Justin Jones, who was coming on last year before he hurt his shoulder, you know, and then Monty Nelson, people forget about, you know, he's a freshman All-American. He started 12 games. So we have 4 guys, and then the kid we just, you know, Colt Culler, we moved from linebacker to D-tackle, is doing really well. It's getting better and better. And then and Darius Bryant, who we just recruited, is 350 pounds. So we have 6 big guys, you know, that are playing hard for Coach Nielsen and are learning the schemes. And I like our depth a lot. It's better than it was last year. It's just, will they produce the same way? And until we get out there, it's going to be hard to know.
You mentioned Colt Culler. What went into the decision to make that? It's a pretty dramatic move. And how's he handling, you know, carrying 50 extra pounds?
Well, I think what went into it was a lot of food. And from 240 to 285, you know, eating and lifting. And you know, Colt spent the year as a redshirt, played linebacker, and it was just apparent by the end of, you know, bowl practices that he wasn't moving like a linebacker anymore, and thought that he was an aggressive, tough kid. And if, you know, I think he was trying to keep his weight down a little bit to stay there, and, you know, just said, hey, look, we need to let nature run its course, and you're a big guy. His dad was a big man, you know, and he was excited about it, and I think he bought in right away. He told me when I recruited him, he said, I'll play anything you want me to play. And I appreciate that about him. You know, he said, you're my coach, I'm your player, what do you need? And he's got a great team attitude that way. So he's done a lot of good things right now in fall camp. In the spring, he was thinking a lot, I think. But you can see now he's just being aggressive and physical, and he's got a smile on his face. It's fun to watch him.
With Naheem, yeah, I think you just have him at receiver. Does he stay there in that slot, or is that something, I know you've talked about he can do a lot of different things?
He can. You know, we just felt like he's been in the backfield a lot. It'd be easier to move him back if that's, you know, say there's injuries or all of a sudden we just got to get him more touches. It's easier to go that way than the other because his skill set was more developed in the backfield. But we can hand him the ball. As you guys know, our receivers carry the ball a lot in our jet packages, and you know, the way he's been catching it and his returning skills, he's got a lot of skill sets, so he's going to play in the slot a lot. And then if that develops where he's shifted back into the backfield some, we'll have to see, but we're not there yet.
You guys ran the ball really well. If you look at the rushing numbers, yards per carry last year were really good. You have a running quarterback. You've got depth in the backfield. Is there a certain element or two you think you can point to and say that's the reason we run the ball as well as we have, and or is it a mentality thing? I
think it's a couple things. It starts with the attitude, the mentality, and that's the first thing. You have to want to run the football, and you have to take pride in running the football. And it's taken us some time. You know, I think the second thing is Coach Uremovich and our strength coaches have done a nice job developing strength and technique. And I think those are two critical things on the offensive line. You have to be extremely strong. You have to be a bender. You know, you got to be mentally tough, but you have to be so technically sound at that position. And I think Mike's done a great job working with those kids, and so is the strength staff, getting them to where they need to be. And we're nowhere near. We're young still, you know, across, other than the seniors, the rest of them are pups. So, but there's just been great strides made there. And I think they've bought into what we want to be. You know, we do want to be an aggressive defense that plays good special teams and can run the ball, and we want to be able to throw the ball and score. It's really a, you know, a run to win, throw to score mentality with our offense, and we're not there yet, but we're getting better at it.
What did Will Richardson do to make that jump that you mentioned earlier?
Well, he had a great summer in the weight room. He got a lot stronger. That was the first thing. He's been hurt, not majorly, but, you know, he's had nicks that have kind of popped him out of the training cycle throughout his time here. It's like every 4 weeks he'd have a sprained knee or a sprained ankle, or he'd get mono, or he'd have pink eye. I mean, it was crazy. And he just couldn't. You need an 8-week window where you can train to maximize your growth. I mean, that's kind of how we do things. It's 8 weeks, and then you kind of change what you're doing. And he never really got one of those until this summer. And so the summer helped him. I think he matured a lot. The redshirt year helped him. And Will's got a really good passion and visible energy about playing football. He loves to play football. And that's something our offensive line, I think, needed, you know. He just brings a little bit of, I don't know, enthusiasm to the huddle that's contagious. And he finishes. And he's nowhere near perfect, and he's got a lot to work on, but when he's in there, you can feel it. And that was one thing I think we needed. And, you know, to his credit, he worked really hard the first week to get himself in the conversation.
With Jacoby, was there anything in particular that you wanted him to shore up? He had that lull kind of in the middle of the season, but the way that he finished, obviously, I'm sure you were pleased with, but I don't know if there was an aspect that you thought needed to be specifically addressed.
You know, I think what we needed him to fix during the season, you saw kind of get fixed as the season went on. I think some of that was not as much him as it was being a first-year starter for anybody. You make mistakes. You learn from your mistakes. He also played 3 of the best defenses in our conference in 1 month, so that had a little bit to do with it. But, you know, he overstrided at times in his drop, which would get him off balance, and then he would struggle setting his feet, you know, with a pass rush in his face on some of his plays. That was something he worked really hard on this spring, and it helped him. His accuracy down the field has been tremendous in fall camp. And that was the one thing that we challenged him to do this summer, and we've seen really, really good results so far. Last year, I think he would let things he couldn't control get to him. You know, other players, how they were playing or not playing, or injuries. The guys are in and out, and I think sometimes the things that are out of his control, because he's so competitive and he wants to do so well, would get in his head. And now he's just focused on what he controls, I think, and that's helped him a lot. You see him, I mean, if a guy drops a ball, it doesn't bother him. I mean, obviously he wants him to catch it, but he put the ball where he was supposed to put it. He read it right. He did his job. Now he's got to go to the next play, and I think that's been really good. Not that we're dropping a lot of balls. We've been better that way, but you can see him just handling adversity that he didn't create better, you know, and I think that's important at quarterback, because you really got to be able to focus on the things that you can control.
Dave, Nielsen seems to coach with a lot of enthusiasm. He's high on instructing. Is that the type of thing you look for when hiring an assistant, and how happy are you with the job he's done since coming to state?
Well, I think D-line is a different animal. All the coaches need to be good teachers. I mean, that's the first thing you need to be as a coach. And they're all going to motivate differently. I mean, they're all wired a little different, and that's okay. Bottom line is you have to get the most out of the guys in your room. You have to create a positive environment for them to want to be in there and learn from you. You got to motivate them and make them know that you care. And I think he does all those things, but he gets a lot out of them, and he's hard on them. He pushes them. He gives great discipline, but he also gives a lot of positive encouragement to the guys, and I think he takes all of their actions very personal, and that's what you want, you know, in a coach, and he does a nice job with all those things.
How close is Farrow to being the kind of all-down guy that you would feel comfortable putting in there in non-pass rushing situations?
Well, he plays now in non-pass rushing situations. He's just still continuing to learn how to be that every down attitude type guy, you know. And Farrell's competitive. He's coachable. He's just, you know, you got to remember that he was playing quarterback and receiver, you know, 2 years ago. So it's a mindset. The D-line's just different. I mean, your motor's got to run hot all the time to be good in that spot. And, you know, it's getting there, but it's not there yet.
Coach, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but coming into this time last year, MJ obviously was looking at being a solid contributor on the team. Then he has the injury.
Right.
Just where is he at mentally and physically, and just how do you think he can bounce back and contribute this year?
Well, you know, mentally, he knows our scheme extremely well. I mean, he's played Will and Mike, so he knows both sides of the formations for us. You know, he's very focused and really a professional when it comes to how he handles himself. I think the first 3 days, anytime you're coming off a ACL or an Achilles, you know, leg injury of that magnitude, there's a mental block that you got to get through, even though the doctor's telling you you're good. He's going to have a series of firsts on that knee. First time he gets cut. You know, first time he takes on a block and somebody hits him in the knee. He's got to get through all those things to know that, man, this thing's okay. And so far, so good, you know. So we're just keep going through it. It takes a little time. And even though he'll feel like he's ready in game one, he'll still need to go out there and hit somebody and get up and say, my knee's good. You know, I mean, I just think that's part of the recovery process. And he's where we thought he would be at this point.
What's kind of the philosophy behind moving Kentavious from the edge to the interior, and how do you think he's going to do at first full year on the interior side?
Well, you know, we lost some great production inside, and he's one of the few players that can play both. You know, he's fast enough to be an end and strong and big enough to be a tackle, and we just felt like he would create some mismatches inside and be a disruptive force in there. We hope he is, but that's why we did it. And we also felt good about what we had coming back at end, or we wouldn't have made the move. So those are the reasons.
I'm sure you're losing sleep over this, but Fox Sports recently said you had the worst non-conference schedule in the country.
Did they?
I don't know if you saw that or not, but is it really that bad?
You know, there's a lot of things said in the preseason that some of them may come out to be true, some of them may not. So I don't know. We'll see if they're really good at that, I guess, later on.
Is it fair to look at just the one part of the schedule and not judge the whole thing?
Well, I don't think it is. I mean, I still think we play in the toughest side of a conference than anybody right now, and that's part of what goes into setting up the other part of our schedule. Part of it's what we inherited, as everybody knows, and it is what it is that way. But, you know, we're going to play some really, really good conference teams, and when you're playing with 70% of your team as young as we are, I think we did the right thing. And it's still building the team is the most important thing, not making Fox happy and not making anyone. We got to have the team go through the steps they need to have. And as you get to be an experienced football team, you can add more games like that, which after this year the conversation is going to end because who we have on the schedule going forward. So I think this is the last time they'll get to say that.
Coach, is winning, is that an expectation? It's a lot different coming into this season from last year. Do you feel like last year maybe State had to learn to win, or is it much different?
No, it's different. You know, last year I think the team felt the pressure that they needed to get it going again, you know what I mean? And but I'm not sure we knew how to get it going. I mean, we had to continue to go through the steps, the process of learning how to win tight games and learning how to be a good road team, learning how to beat an in-state team, you know, closing those gaps that we had to close. And we did those things, you know, and we finished with great momentum and won some big games. And I think the expectation's to build off of that, you know, and to continue to not just win, but close gaps. And that's what we want to do. You know, we want to be a better version of what we were last season. So we'll find out. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here.